Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, let's build an end-to-end FDE or forward deployed instance project. Basically, I'll take an e-commerce application, a real-time production level e-commerce application, and I'll show you how an FDE engineer integrates AI assistant to this e-commerce application. And I'll try to use open source and free solutions in this video. So after watching the video, you can also go back and you can also implement this project. Overall, the total cost for this project will be less than $1. In fact, you can do this in 50 cents as well. So this is absolutely beginner friendly. You will get everything that you need to build this project. Perfect. So without wasting any time, let's get started. Let's start with understanding the project and the roles and responsibilities of a forward deployed engineer. So in this project, we will use an e-commerce application. This is the e-commerce application that we are going to use, a juice shop application. This is typically like any other e-commerce platform, just like Amazon. But in this case, you will find different juices. So a user can create an account. Once user creates an account, user can look at different juices. User can go through the product description, look at the reviews of the product, check out the product, basically add it to the basket, then check out the items from the basket. Also, user can proceed with the payment. There is a dummy payment gateway and shipping service, delivery service, everything is included in this juice shop application, right? Typically, any other e-commerce platform. Let's say a company called XYZ has developed this e-commerce platform. But if you observe carefully, there is one feature that is missing on the platform, the AI chatbot feature. Today, even if you go to simple websites, like even a ticket booking website, you will find an AI chatbot. Even on the documentation website, you will find an AI chatbot. What is the purpose of AI chatbot on the e-commerce platform? As simple as user can go to the chatbot, ask about the product related information, or maybe ask about the payment gateway related issues. User tried payment, something failed, or ask about reviews of a specific product. Maybe the cost related questions on the product. When will the product come back to the stock? Whatever is the reason, every company today needs an AI chatbot. So XYZ company decided they will also go with the chatbot, but they saw a problem. They have the development team, they have the test team, but they don't have someone who can build this AI chatbot. Now, I'm not talking about a proof of concept. I'm talking about real world deployment, real world creation of the chatbot, and also making sure the chatbot is robust. That is, it works absolutely fine. It cannot give any false or any assumptions to the user. So, what this XYZ company has done, they started looking out for options. There are companies like OpenAI, right? There are companies like Microsoft, Anthropic. What these companies have done, so they are hiring FDE engineers. So when XYZ company goes to OpenAI and let's say they tell them this is our requirement. Now OpenAI says, okay, we have FDE engineer. We will give you the FDE engineer and this FDE engineer will set up all of this for you. Basically, we'll set up AI chatbot for you. Is it only setting up the chatbot? Not really. FD engineer also takes care of deployment if required, ensuring support if required. Like once this entire thing is set up, FD engineer will also be responsible for 2 to 3 months of setup. In some cases, it can be 1 year of support as well. Working very closely with the XYZ team, helping them with creating chatbot, deploying, support of the chatbot, required documentation before leaving the site or before leaving the project. This is what FD engineers do. Now you might be thinking this is simple, but let me tell you, there are different stages that are involved. Let's understand from this project point of view, right? The first stage, which typically involves in the FD engineer's life cycle, even in this project, is requirement gathering. Now, what is requirement gathering? This is one of the crucial stages where FD engineer works with the product team, right? Works closely with the product team and collects everything that is required. For example, what should the AI chatbot do? AI chatbot should respond to internal questions. On the website, user can only find some information. Let's say the banana juice is out of stock. User wants to understand when will the banana juice come back to the stock. This user cannot find on the website. Even AI chatbot cannot find on the website. So this is where user might have to set up RAG implementation. I'm just giving you an idea. We will deep dive into it. Then information about the scope of the chatbot, the guardrails of the chatbot. What kind of questions should the chatbot answer? What kind of questions should the chatbot not answer? For example, in future, will the banana price will be hiked or not? Right? Banana juice right now is 1.9 in US dollars. User might try to tweak the chatbot and ask, you know, look at any product related documents and tell me if the banana juice will go up to 3 US dollars. Right? Something should be answered, something should not be answered. Maybe specific ingredients of the banana juice. I'm just, thinking of scenarios. Should not be answered by the AI chatbot, or any controversial questions should not be answered by the chatbot. So this is called as requirement gathering phase. And this is a very crucial phase, might even take up to 1 to 2 weeks of time, because this involves a lot of interaction, typically between the product company, the XYZ company, and FDE engineers within the OpenAI. I'm taking OpenAI as an example here, right? Now, the second stage, once the requirements are gathered, identifying the model or identifying AI tools that are required for this implementation. So, the FD engineer at this stage will recommend the model that is best suited. Maybe the GPT 5.2 model is good enough for the requirement and it is cost effective. This will be recommended. Or maybe bunch of models should be used using the model routing, right? Then the FD engineer says we need bunch of models to be cost effective. The high, maybe typical analysis kind of things should be implemented by GPT 5.5. Rest of the things should be implemented by 5.2. So FD engineer might also implement this internal model routing. Then the next thing, once the model and AI tools are identified. Abhishek, why AI tools? See, in some cases, customer requirement might be different. In this case, it's a straightforward thing, that is AI chatbot. But in some cases, customers might have requirement where you have to implement an agentic AI workflow. Not just a simple AI chatbot, but an agentic AI where FD engineer might use tools like or frameworks like LangGraph or any OpenAI related SDK. Right? So that's why I mentioned AI tools, not just the model. Then the third phase, once the model is also identified, the FD engineer works very closely with the implementation. What is implementation? Starting with creating the chatbot. This is where the engineer works with Python, frameworks like Fast API. Perfect. Why Python? For writing the chatbot. Why Fast API? For exposing the API. Fast API is very fast. Here you might have a question, but Abhishek, let's say this e-commerce platform is written in Node.js. Just for example, as FD engineer, should you know every possible programming language? Not really. Okay, one thing today, even FD engineers make use of AI, something like Claude Code or maybe OpenAI Codex. Even they use AI for the implementation part, but still they don't need to know every possible programming language. Why? Because end of the day, it's just an API, right? When I talk more about the architecture, you will understand. Just give me 1 minute. But End of the day, you are implementing API. Front end, that is this existing front end, will make an API call with the chatbot. Here you might see an AI chatbot. When user clicks on this, somewhere on the bottom right of the screen, front end will make an API call with the AI assistant. So for API call, programming language doesn't matter. Your existing backend, the e-commerce platform, it can be in Node.js, but your AI assistant can still be in Python. And that is the reason why most of the AI assistants today are written in Python. Because Python is very easy. AI, like Cloud Code, Codex, they can write Python without any security issues because it's a very old programming language. And even Fast API is very simple and very effective. Now let me take one more minute here and explain you why programming language doesn't matter, right? Why only if you learn Python and Fast API is good enough as an FDE engineer. See, for this e-commerce platform, the one that you're seeing here, there is a front end, right? Let's understand how the existing application works. There is front end, the one that user sees, all the juice related information and all. When user clicks on a juice, let's say, the request goes to a backend. Let's say existing backend is written in Node.js. Okay. This is where, in the backend, all the logic is handled. For example, user's payment is handled or product related information is fetched from the database, right? The product related information, the pricing related information, everything is stored in the database. Backend fetch this information and the information is reflected in the front end. This is the existing workflow. Now, when you create an AI assistant as an FD engineer, so you create the AI assistant typically in Python. You expose the AI assistant using Fast API. Okay, all good till now. Now, when user clicks on the AI chatbot, again front end makes an API call to the Fast API. So there is no interaction between these two components, right? I hope this is clear. Your existing application, your existing e-commerce platform, although AI chatbot is or AI assistant is embedded into the same platform, this is where you see the AI assistant, but the code is completely different. So you can still write this in Python. And even you can maintain a different database for this. Most of the cases you maintain vector database, which is my next step, that is step 4. So step 4, once FD engineer, so FD engineer starts with requirement gathering. Once this is done, identifying model and required AI tools, AI platforms, then implementation, creates AI assistant in Python and Fast API. Then the next step, that is step 4, is the most critical one, RAG. Why RAG? See, we'll take example here. Let's say user goes to the front end, user asks a question. What is the most costliest item on the platform? Very simple question. On this juice shop platform, which juice is the most costliest one? Imagine you are using OpenAI. Okay. AI assistant will make use of OpenAI API, maybe GPT 5.4. GPT 5.4 is trained on the public information, right? The AI that you are using, it is trained on the public information. Like you can ask it about Java, you can ask it about Python, you can ask it about general questions. But when you ask questions related to the product, not only about cost of the product, maybe you ask it, when does a product come back to the stock? Definitely your AI model will not have the information of it, right? What is the user review on the product? Maybe your OpenAI AI might not have the information of it. So what you do as FD engineer, you make use of a concept called RAG. How does this work? Simple. So here, as FD engineer, you again work with the product team. You take the product related documents, important product related documents, you store them within the vector database as a concept called embeddings. We will not dive deep into it because it's a complete full concept, like if we talk about embeddings, if we talk about vector database, that itself will take another 30 minutes. So understand this. FD engineer works with the product team, gets the important documents from the product team on which AI assistant should answer the questions. Let's say product team says, okay, these are the 5 documents which AI assistant can read and answer the questions about. This engineer takes these documents, these important documents, makes them into the embeddings format and stores them into the vector database. Vector database is just like any other database, but this has the power of similarity search, right? This has the power of semantic search, similarity search. So what are the vector databases? Databases like the Oracle database, Redis database. Today, what we are going to use is an open source vector database, that is the Chroma database. The reason is very simple. Why are we going with ChromaDB for this project? It's free, it's open source, it's super lightweight. Just like how you are working on development or DevOps related projects, you go with SQLite. Why? SQLite is very light. In the same way, ChromaDB is a lightweight vector database. That's it. That's the only reason. If you want to go with Oracle or Redis, you can still go with it. The project will work as is. Cool. This is the step 4. Now, finally, step 5, integrate widget onto the front end, right? On the front end, user should see a widget, maybe a message icon here, a message icon to the top bottom of the screen, or maybe something like a chatbot icon, so that user can click on it and user can understand there is an AI assistant here. Step 6, deployment. In today's video, we will stop at Docker. So we will use the Docker containers. We will make use of Docker Compose and deploy this entire project onto the local host. But if you want to take this forward, you can deploy the same project onto an EC2 instance or onto a Kubernetes cluster. That's up to you. But today's goal, I want everyone to try this project. So I will stop at the Docker, right? So I will help you deploy this project onto the local host. You can take this next level. You can make use of AI. You can use your own capability and put it on Kubernetes, put it on AWS VM, put it on Microsoft Foundry. That's up to you. But typically, even after all of these things, in real time, there are 2 more steps for FDE engineers, right? One is support. Once the project is deployed, engineer works with the product team, helps them with the support and observability, probably for next 2 months, next 3 months. Make sure the AI assistant is completely stable. And finally, documents everything and leaves the project, right? Now this project is done for FD engineer, moves to another e-commerce platform or another website. That is the life cycle. FD engineer is not tied to a project, right? They are tied to company called OpenAI. They are like consultants, right? They are like consultants of OpenAI. Today, like for the first 3 months of a year, they might work with a company. Next 3 months, they might work with a different company. That is the role of FD engineer. Typical consultant, typical support engineer, production support engineer, those kind of things. I mean, production support might not be the right one to say, but typical consultant role. Perfect. So now you understood the scope. Let me repeat it before we go to the implementation. First thing, requirement gathering. Second, once the requirement is clear, identifying the right AI tools for the implementation, then implementation of the project, something like this, then implementing RAG so that AI assistant can answer internal queries. Fifth, integrating the AI assistant into front end using the widget. 6, deploying the project locally using Docker and then deploying the project onto the production. 7, support and observability. 8, documentation. Cool. Now let's start with our implementation. We will follow the same steps. Cool. Requirement gathering. We already know what exactly we need. We want a simple AI assistant. In our case, requirement is simple. We want a simple AI assistant on this website that can answer user questions like, tell me the information of the product. Tell me the cost of a particular product. Let's keep it as simple as that. Okay, let's keep it very, very simple. How will you start with the implementation? First, you have to clone this repo. This is an open source project. This is actually from OWASP. So let's also give credits to the project OWASP. I'll share the link in the description. They have done great job. This is almost looking like a real e-commerce platform. So kudos to them. Perfect. So we have to clone this repo. In my case, I think I already have it. Let me open my Visual Studio Code. Okay. Let me pull it onto the screen. Yeah, I already have it. I'll quickly pull it here. Okay. Cool. I hope you are looking at the right screen. Great. Let's close the release notes. So I don't have to walk you through the project because we are not dealing with the e-commerce project, right? We are not dealing with building the e-commerce application, or we are not dealing with DevOpsifying the project. So let's ignore that. We will make use of GitHub Copilot, right? And we will provide it with the first step. Abhishek, why are you using AI? Today, even FDE engineers make use of AI. If you are forward deployed engineer, that doesn't mean you will write all the code. It doesn't work like that, right? These people are from companies like OpenAI. In fact, they will use more AI than a typical development engineer. I mean, typical developer. Okay. So first of all, what is our requirement? So we will tell, I want to build an AI assistant in Python and expose it using Fast API. Okay. And then we will say, okay, we will expose it with Fast API. And then we'll also tell it, this is my requirement. Okay. First, AI assistant should help with what exactly it should help with? Product related information. Okay. And then it should help with pricing. Okay. Let's keep it as simple as that. Now, when it is trying to build this Python application with Fast API, it will also make use of the OpenAI API or Anthropic API. We have to provide it with something, which is in fact our step 2. Okay, let's do step 1 and step 2 together. So I'll go to the OpenAI platform. I'll go to the API platform and I will create an API key. This is only place where you will spend money on. Okay, while implementing the project, as I told you, it will cost you $1 or it will cost you 50 cents. This is exactly where it will cost you. You can go to this platform, click on API keys and create an API key. Okay, create secret API key. Let's provide it with a name, FDE simple demo, so that I can delete it later. I'll remember the name. Create secret key, copy. Now let me ask you an important question. Where will you store this information? Will you directly give it to the AI assistant? That will be a blunder. What you have to do, I mean, this is the simplest security aspect. In fact, in real time in your company, you have to make use of things like Vault or any secret management solution. But at least when you're working on a hobby project, make sure you create .env.openai like file. Any file, create it with .env.openai, anything like that. And say OpenAI key. This is the right format, OpenAI key. Let's paste it here. Is it done? Not really. In fact, you cannot share this information to the AI assistant directly. The better thing to do in the project, create a .gitignore file. Okay, so that you accidentally don't push the information. I'm sure it should be somewhere. .gitignore. Here we go. Here, add the file. Okay, this is what you have to do. Okay, I'll say .env.openai, or simply you can say .env.star as well. Anyways, okay, I hope the naming convention is right. .env.openai. Okay, it looks good. Now what I'm going to do, this is a final step. You have to add this git file and commit the .git ignore file. Okay, so take your terminal and here simply run git add .git ignore and git commit. Let's say add new entry to .git ignore. Cool. So this is just for my reference and making sure everything is secure. Cool. Now I'll provide it one more step here. You can use OpenAI API that's in .env .openai file. Okay. In fact, when you're working in real time, what you have to do instead of saying the location, the name of the file, you have to put this in a vault or you have to put it in a secret manager and probably provide it with the API information here. Okay, we are all good. Now, what it is going to do, this is going to perform our step 1 and step 2. Maybe requirement gathering is done. So it is going to do our model, identifying the model. So how you can choose the model? If you go here, when you create an API key, you can choose the default model or you can see models that are allowed. Okay. By default, it will pick up the latest and greatest model. But if you want, you can control the model usage. Okay. Then requirement model is done. Gathering is done. Model identification. In our case, we are picking up the default model. That is also done. Implementation is going on. It will create Python and it will create fast API. Now I'll tell you the best thing to do while this is implementing. Okay. In fact, I do it if I'm not recording this video, if I'm not making this, right? What I usually do is I go here and I see every file that it is implementing. Why? One reason, you will gain a lot of understanding. You will know how exactly this works. The AI assistant, on top of that, it might create security issues. For example, in the requirements.txt, it might use old version of fast API, old version of OpenAI SDK, right? Or Pydantic. It is my responsibility, right? This is where human in loops comes into picture. It's not that you are an FD engineer, you are making use of AI, so you will simply allow it to do anything. No. So you have to make sure the code is generated right, documentation is created right, and everything that is being created is absolutely secure. That is your responsibility. Cool. So that's why make sure you go through every single line and accept everything only if you understand. Okay. In this case, it is generated. So you can see here. Let me quickly close this for you. So you can see, what does it say? Validation performed. Okay. Before that, so it exposed two things. One is slash ask API. So what is this slash ask API? According to our architecture diagram, this is the one. It created the AI assistant and this is the API that is it exposed, right? Slash ask. Now, whenever user talks to the AI assistant, frontend sends the request to slash ask. For example, user said hi. So hi message is sent to slash ask. If platform is running on localhost port 3000, so request is sent to 3000 slash ask. This request goes to the fast API. Then it goes to the Python and OpenAI respond back to the user. This is the workflow. Cool. Okay. What else does it say? Answers only product and pricing related questions. What is this? This is a guardrail that it set. Okay. Observe carefully. Answers only product and pricing questions. That means any other question, it would say, I'm not sure. That is the guardrail, right? That is the protection on the AI assistant. Otherwise, people can simply come here, right? People can simply ask any information. In fact, they can make use of your AI assistant and ask questions related to Java, questions related to Python. What happens in that case? Your AI credits are burning. If they start using your AI assistant like ChatGPT, your company will be charged. Cool. Okay. Then let's go back. Refuses unrelated questions. Okay. exactly what we expected. Reads OpenAI key, perfect. Returns clean 502 if OpenAI calls fail. Perfect, absolutely cool. Okay, now let's move to the next step. What is done till now? Implementation is done. What is the next part? Next part is the RAG implementation. How are we going to implement RAG? Again, we are going to provide it with very clear instructions. Now, I will say this is great. Now, I want to set up or I want to implement RAG. Why? Because I want AI assistant, right? My way of giving prompts is little different. So you might find it different, but this is how I interact with the AI assistant. I feel it gives a better response. Okay, so this is great. Now I want to implement RAG. Why? Because I want AI assistant to answer questions internal to the product. So take the information from the app and store that as embeddings in the ChromaDB. Make sure to install the ChromaDB in Docker container and backend. AI assistant talks to the ChromaDB. Perfect. Now you might ask a question here. Okay, let me just enter, let it do the work. You might ask a question here. Abhishek, in real time, is it this simple? The RAG part? Not really. This is the most toughest part. Okay, the retrieval augmented generation. In fact, the retrieval pipelines are the most difficult things to build. Let me explain why. See, we often think, okay, RAG implementation is as simple as choosing a model, then choosing a vector database, right? And model interacts with the vector database, gets the information. No, RAG implementation is very critical. I mean, very difficult. Why? Because one, you have to talk to the product team and you have to ask the product team, where are the internal documents, right? To what level the internal information should be shared with AI, right? So collect the internal documentation, like it is again like requirement gathering, and convert this internal documentation into embeddings, then store the information onto the vector database, right? This is all going to take a lot of time. On top of that, even choosing the vector database, which database are you going to choose? It will depend on the requirement. In my case, I'm going with ChromaDB because this is a simple hobby project for me, right? I'm teaching this FD implementation for you. But in real time, I have a lot of options. I can go with Oracle, I can go with Redis, I can go. It's not like a programming language. For programming language, you can easily pick up with Python, right? You can easily go with Python. But when it comes to a vector database, you have to choose the database according to your requirement. This itself is going to take at least 1 to 2 weeks of time for you. And once you do all of this, even after doing this, user search is very, very different. You might think user will ask a question, tell me about the apple juice. No, user's question might be totally different. User might say, instead of saying apple juice, I'm looking for a cider juice, right? Vector database gives you similarity search, but still it might not recognize cider as the apple or cider. Apple is a cider kind of a thing. So you also have to add some capabilities to vector database, something like meaning search, right? Again, I don't want to complicate the things here, but there are things like meaning search, right? Along with semantic search. And if user just start typing like app, then you have to start providing it with the relevant documents. You might have seen this on websites, right? When you just type app, it will give you apple juice, okay? Or it will give you bunch of documents that are related to the word app, right? Even before you complete the sentence, there will be bunch of documents, especially when you're dealing with support cases, payment gateway related issues. When you look at Ola, Uber, you type a word, it will give you bunch of frequently asked questions. You have to take care of all of this, right? So that's why RAG implementation is going to take a lot of time for you. Okay, so where are we right now? It says Chroma is running successfully. Next, I will create a local virtual environment, install the dependencies, start with fast API server, and validate the reindex. Okay, it's doing great. I think we are almost done. This is running as a Docker container. Yeah, you can see here. The API server is up. Now I'm looking at health and reindex. Cool. What is our next step? Okay, while this is being done, our next step is front-end widget implementation. Simple. This is very straightforward. So I'll say here, add a simple widget to the front end, right? An AI widget. So user can click on the widget to interact with the AI assistant from Juice Shop front end. Okay, this is what I'll tell. Juice Shop front end. Cool. So this is almost done. It created a Docker container as well. I've improved the visibility. Let's wait for a second. Nice, nice. Okay, so you can see here, it did a lot of things. Actually, it did more than what I was looking for. But anyways, so it created the Chroma DB, it implemented the endpoints for it as well. Docker container is all good. So let's ask it for this widget related thing. And once this is done, we will move to the final step. That is creating the Docker compose file for this everything, right? I'm sure a lot of you, okay, while this is being done, let me talk about the Docker compose thing. I'm sure a lot of you already know about Docker. What exactly we do in terms of local deployment, that is typically FD engineers do with local deployment. Abhishek, why do they need Docker? Simple. See, end of the day, AI assistant is being deployed to the same e-commerce platform. So if you look at it, it's just a software application, right? Software application has the AI assistant. Now you cannot directly deploy this to production. You have to test it on the local environment, right? You have to test it on dev, staging, prod, and you have to test it locally as well. How do you do that? Will you start all these applications every time locally? No. So what you do, you create Docker containers and you create something called a Docker compose file as an FD engineer, right? That's why FD engineers need to know Docker as well. And then you can share this Docker compose file with the product team, with the test team, and ask them to test as well. Cool. And you all know how much time this takes. This will easily take 1 to 2 weeks of time. Because in this case, there are only three containers: front end, back end, AI assistant, and Chroma DB. My bad. There are 4 to 5 containers here. But in some cases, like if you're dealing with Amazon like e-commerce platform, you might have 30 to 40 containers as well, right? So you have to make sure every Docker file is clear, every container is being created right, and a Docker compose file will start all of these containers. Even if you are working with AI Assistant and Vector DB, you have to ensure existing containers are not disturbed. They are working as is. So this will take a lot of time. Okay. Now let's also provide it with a prompt for Docker containers. We are not going to do this manually. So what I'm going to say, perfect. We are almost done. Now add everything, including AI Assistant and Vector DB to the Docker compose file and ensure all the containers are up and running. Most importantly, this is the most important part. Front end can interact with AI assistant. Cool. So this is going to be our last step because we are not going to look at support, observability, and documentation part. That will take, like, if you're deployed as an FD engineer in real time in a company, that is when you have to do it. For your hobby project, you don't have to set up support, you don't have to set up documentation, right? Cool. So let's wait for it, creating the Docker Compose file, and let's see, end of the day, are we able to see AI icon here and AI widget and see if we can talk to that AI widget and we have achieved what we are looking for or not. And yeah, you can see here it is making use of Docker Compose. It created this Docker Compose file. Ideally, my responsibility would be to go through this Docker Compose file. Right now, it just added the Chroma service, right? In Docker Compose file, you usually have different services. We will have four services end of the day. Chroma service, AI assistant, front end, back end, right? Those will be the services. Right now, it just added one. Probably then it would be creating the network, add all the containers to the network. This is my responsibility to make sure everything in the Docker Compose file is as expected. Especially when you're working with DevOps related tasks, I would highly encourage you to check the output, right? Because the output when it comes to operations related activities is is not as great as it is when you work with development related tasks. When you're working with Python, Java, most likely you'll get the expected result. But with operations related things, DevOps, SRE, AI can make a lot of mistakes, and those mistakes can impact your infrastructure and also security. So go through each and every line that it generated. There we go. It actually took a lot of time. To be honest, it took somewhere close to 20-25 minutes because it was running into some issue while creating the Docker Compose. End of the day, it was able to resolve it by itself. But as I told you, while working with this, you have to ensure you take care of Docker Compose. Like, let it generate, but you have to fix the Docker Compose file. You have to fix any issues with Docker. In my case, thankfully, I did not have to interfere. Everything is smooth. Now let's see. We'll go back. So this was the previous application. Let's refresh and see, right? So I'll quickly refresh. I can see an AI widget here, right? I'm sure you can also see this bottom right of the screen. Let me click on it. Okay. AI assistant. Hi. I I can help you with product details and pricing. Exactly what we asked for. Let me ask a question. Tell me the price of apple juice. Okay, let's see if it can answer. There you go. It says 1.99 US dollars. Now I'll ask it a little difficult question. Let's say, tell me the costliest and cheapest juice, right? Let's see. Okay, what does it say? So it says this is the costliest juice and this is the cheapest juice. Let's ask it one more question. Uh, let's say, what is the internal feedback on apple juice? There is a guardrail on this. So ideally it should an answer. Not included any information about the internal feedback. Perfect. So the guardrail is also working. But this is not production rag. As I told you, in production rag, you will find a lot of documents, you will find a lot of information. We set it up in a very, very simple way. Also, one thing that we set up in a simple way, this is running on local host using Docker Compose. You have to understand it. Your next step will be to take this entire thing and deploy on AWS or Microsoft Azure Foundry or any other solution, right? The scope of this project for today is just to show you what exactly are the roles and responsibilities of FDE engineer and how can they bring the project up on the local machine. The reason why I'm not doing AWS or Azure integration, because a lot of you might not implement that. When I say this is going to be on AWS, on Azure, I'm sure your credentials, credit card billing, other things comes into picture. So I want everyone to perform this. Make sure you do it. This will only cost you $1 or 50 cents, not more than that. Even if I show you my API usage, you will realize, see, this is my API usage. And how much did it cost me? Total spend for today, 0.72. I did two proof of concepts before this because I'm not a superhuman. I'll not directly do the entire implementation by starting recording. I did a proof of concept. I made sure everything is working. Only then I have done this. So if you divide this by three, it only comes to 0.24 US dollars. That is what it is going to cost you. So go ahead, implement this FDE project. Be the first ones to share it on LinkedIn, update your GitHub profile. Perfect. I hope you have learned something very interesting today. I hope the project is insightful. Let me know in the comment section if you like the video, if you want me to do more of these videos. Thank you so much for watching the video. I'll see you in the comment section. Take care. Bye bye.